Imagine a city at the absolute zenith of its global power. A glittering jewel of white marble and hammered gold rising defiantly from the salt waves of the Adriatic. This is Venice in the 14th century. The beating heart of international trade, the gateway between the mysterious Orient and the hungry markets of Europe. Every single day, dozens of massive galleys arrive from the Silk Road, their hulls heavy with the scent of cinnamon, the weight of black pepper, and the shimmering beauty of the finest silks from China. But in the year 1347, these ships began to carry a stowaway more lethal than any invading army: the Black Death. While the rest of the European continent fell into a state of paralyzed prayer and blind panic, the most serene Republic of Venice did something truly revolutionary. They did not merely pray for a miracle. They engineered one. They looked at the terrifying chaos of the plague and applied the cold, calculating logic of maritime logistics and architectural physics. They created the Lazaretto, the world's first systematic, state-sponsored biodefense system. It was a profound fusion of architecture, medical intuition, and absolute administrative control. As a ship approached the lagoon, it was no longer met with open arms, but with a stark yellow flag and a strict command from the naval patrol: halt. This was the birth of the Quaranta giorni, the 40 days. From this very Venetian word, the modern world inherited its concept of quarantine. This was not just a period of waiting. It was a sophisticated scientific process designed to purge an invisible killer from the very fabric of global civilization. To truly understand the genius behind the Lazaretto, we must examine the strategic geography of isolation. The Venetian Senate designated two specific fortress-like islands for this purpose: Lazaretto Vecchio for those already manifesting symptoms, and Lazaretto Nuovo for those arriving from suspect ports. Lazaretto Nuovo was not a prison. It was a colossal logistical hub. At its center stood the Tessin, a massive stone warehouse spanning over 100 meters in length, designed specifically to breathe. Here, the architecture itself was the primary medical instrument. The Venetians intuitively understood a physical principle we now describe as forced ventilation. They recognized that stagnant air was the ally of infection. Therefore, the Tessin was engineered with dozens of massive, open stone arches and soaring ceilings to allow the relentless, salt-rich sea breezes of the lagoon to sweep through the structure at all times. Thousands of bales of precious silk, wool, and cotton were not simply stored. They were opened, unrolled, and hung on high wooden racks like ghosts in a stone gallery. For 40 days, these goods were subjected to a constant, high-velocity flow of Adriatic air. This was not merely for aeration. It was a physical scouring. The Venetians believed that the miasma, the infectious bad air, clung to porous materials. By forcing the air to move constantly, they were effectively stripping the plague away from the cargo. But the wind was only one half of this ancient decontamination laboratory. The second critical element was the sun. The vast paved courtyards of the Lazaretto were utilized to spread out thousands of luxury rugs and garments under the intense Mediterranean sun. While the 14th century Venetians lacked the modern knowledge of ultraviolet radiation, they were master observers of cause and effect. They saw that goods kept in dark corners remained poisonous, while those exposed to direct rays of the sun became safe for human touch. This was the first large-scale application of UV sterilization in history. The process was grueling and required immense labor. Every single piece of fabric had to be turned, shaken, and aired repeatedly by workers who risked their lives for the Republic. It was a battle of attrition against a microscopic enemy. Alongside the sun and the wind, The Venetians employed a form of chemical warfare. They burned vast quantities of dried rosemary, lavender, and juniper in silver braziers, creating thick clouds of aromatic smoke. They believed these scents purified the animal spirits of the cargo. In reality, the combination of intense heat and toxic smoke likely acted as a powerful secondary disinfectant, driving away the fleas that were the true carriers of the plague. The specific choice of the number 40 Quaranta was far from random. While it echoed biblical symbols, it was also a remarkably accurate biological observation. The Venetian health magistrates noticed that if a crew remained healthy for 40 days in isolation, the threat had extinguished. This window was long enough for any latent incubation period to conclude, and for any infected fleas trapped in the cargo to die off without a fresh host. This 40-day rule became the global gold standard for maritime safety. The administration of this system was a marvel of early modern bureaucracy. The Provveditori alla Sanità, the health magistrates of Venice, held absolute power. They maintained meticulous ledgers, recording every ship, every sailor's name, and every single bale of cloth. They issued Fedi di Sanità, the world's first health passports checked at every maritime gate. If a sailor arrived without these papers, he was treated as a biological threat and barred from the city. This was the true beginning of modern public health surveillance. The Lazaretto transformed the paralyzing fear of the unknown into a manageable risk. We must also reflect on the human element within these silent stone walls. The Lazaretto was a unique city of the suspended. For 40 days, wealthy noblemen and penniless sailors lived within the same barracks, eating the same state-provided rations, waiting for the wind and the sun to declare them clean. It was a place of profound psychological tension, yet remarkably humane and organized.
The high-tech version of
the Republic
rosemary
understood that a successful quarantine required the trust and cooperation of the people. They provided fresh water, spiritual care, and food, realizing that if the conditions were too brutal, sailors would hide their symptoms or smuggle goods, bringing the plague into the heart of the Rialto. By making the Lazaretto a functional, ventilated space, Venice ensured that the wheels of commerce could continue to turn even during a pandemic. The island of Lazaretto Nuovo became a fortress of the human mind, where the logic of the merchant finally overcame the irrational panic of the survivor. Today, as we navigate our own global health crises, the ruins of the Lazaretto speak to us with urgent relevance. We still use the word quarantine. We still rely on the principles of isolation and ventilation. In modern hospitals, we utilize negative pressure rooms, technological descendants of the Tezon's open arches. The Venetian lesson is that architecture is not merely about aesthetics. It is our primary defensive shield.
The crystallized salt
By designing buildings that prioritize air movement and light exposure, we create environments that are naturally resistant to disease. The Lazaretto was the world's first smart infrastructure. It required no electricity. It required a deep understanding of natural rhythms. The sea breeze and the solar rays were the only medication available, and they were harnessed with precision.
The Lazaretto was a factory.
This system proved that a city could remain a vibrant trading hub while maintaining an impenetrable biological border. As the sun sets over the lagoon, the long shadows of the Tezon warehouses stretch toward the city like the ribcage of a stone beast. The plague is a memory, but the architecture of survival remains. The Lazaretto stands as a silent guardian, reminding us that the greatest tool against disaster is the organized application of logic and the laws of nature. Every ship that passes these islands today is a beneficiary of the Venetian Quaranta. The yellow flag has been replaced by digital sensors, but the goal remains: to protect the breath of the city. Venice showed the world that we could build our way out of a crisis. They showed us that the wind and the sun are our oldest and most reliable allies. As we pull back, we see Venice glowing like a pearl, protected for 7 centuries by the stone lungs of the Lazaretto. The air is clear, the cargo is safe, and the legacy of the 40 days lives on. Through the long corridors of history, the message of the Venice Lazaretto remains crystalline. Public health is the foundation of prosperity. Without the quarantine system, the Venetian Empire would have collapsed in the 14th century, silenced by the grave. Instead, they built a machine that processed the world's goods, filtering out death and allowing life to flow. The Tizon was more than a warehouse. It was a cathedral of the air. It taught us that we must allow our homes, our workplaces, and our cities to breathe. Stagnation is the ally of the plague. Movement is the ally of health. As we look at the lagoon today, let us remember the brilliance of those ancestors who saw the wind as a purifier and the sun as a healer. The Lazaretto is a monument to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of architectural foresight. It is the bridge between the medieval and the modern world, a stone testament to the day humanity stopped running from the darkness and started managing the light. The 40 days are over, but the lesson of Venice is eternal. To protect the city, you must first master the air. Thank you for watching. This immersive experience was brought to you by the power of AI storytelling. We use artificial intelligence to reimagine the past and entertain the curious minds of the present. The quest continues.